Yes, go ahead.
Any surprises this evening, or was this trip, this visit, what you were expecting?
I didn't have any expectations, but I didn't feel any particular surprises. It was a talk to students mostly, and we had a good exchange. I mainly, you know, what I like when I talk is to have some back and forth, and these kids were eager to talk, most of them, and that was great. So I enjoyed it.
Even the adults that were sitting up front
folks,
that
there were
stayed
folks,
longer and discussed with you?
well, there were folks who disagreed with me, but I don't know if you noticed, the first one of them who stood up said, I agree with you more than I would have imagined, and I think that often happens, and it's because the picture that gets painted, the stereotype, the cartoon character, isn't me. So I think once they listened to what I had to say, it was all good.
So 2 years ago, the university canceled your visit, said it was going to cost $13,000 for security. When you were here at the education building a few years ago, you told me that you know, all you needed was a state patrolman to get you to the stage. You didn't even need that tonight. So
No, but
what was the security, you think?
I remember I told you, all I need is one state patrolman to get me the podium, and I'll take care of myself. So I did get to the podium, and I took care of myself. And you know, I think that this security thing is overrated and overstated. I think in the main, people have a very deep sense of fairness, a very deep sense of the right of people to speak. And I think the big thing that the big message that I think you all have some responsibility for, and actually we have a unity of interest here around a free press and free speech, is that when campus groups want to talk to somebody, that's in no way an endorsement of that person. That's a desire to talk. It's just like a campus library has all kinds of books. It has biographies and histories and science books and quackish books and crazy books. But books are their business, and the same is true for ideas. The university has to be a meeting place of ideas. If we can't have a meeting place of ideas in the university, where can we have it? So, as I said in there, I don't think anybody should hope to come to a great university like Georgia Southern at 18 and graduate 4 years later the same person they were when they arrived. They should be challenged. They should develop a critical sense. Part of developing a critical sense is talking to a lot of folks, reading a lot of books, encountering a lot of ideas, some of which you agree with, some of which you don't agree with, and then making up your own mind.
Bill, Patrick, I spoke to you on the phone the other day.
Oh, my sympathies. Nice to see you.
No, it was a good conversation. Now, one of the guys from the Sons of Liberty Writers, as they corrected me, his statement was that the university was irresponsible in inviting you. What's your response to that?
No, I don't think the university is irresponsible in inviting me, and that's what I think, again, you all have some responsibility to educate the public about what the role of the university is. The role of the university is a meeting place of ideas. As I said in there, when I was a freshman at the University of Michigan, I listened to 5 speakers that I remember over the course of a couple of years, the first 2 years I was at Michigan. And among those speakers were Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the head of the Communist Party, and the head of the Nazi Party. Now, nobody thought that by bringing those people there that we would be recruited into some cause or other. They thought that we had a right to talk to people who were in the public eye, who had ideas, who wanted to discuss them, and we listened respectfully, and we argued respectfully, and we walked out when we disagreed respectfully. But that's the role of the university. It's not a mistake to invite somebody. It's not a mistake to invite me. It's not a mistake to invite Sarah Palin. The difference is she cost $200,000. And as I, no, never went. Yeah.
Also, several of the guys that were opposed to you being here, I'm sure you can tell who they were, their reaction after you spoke was that you had lied on certain subjects, specifically the Hosna one or whatever it was.
Well,
what is your reaction towards that?
Well, I mean, we'd have to discuss the particulars. No, I didn't lie. But, you know, there's a narrative out there on Fox News that has me painted as a boogeyman, and it doesn't meet or comport with who I actually am. And often people are, I sometimes feel like when I was at the University of Wyoming, and that was the place that initially banned me, and then there was a lawsuit that students brought, and I joined that lawsuit. And the argument there was, it wasn't my free speech that was being denied. It was their right to talk to who they wanted to talk to that was being denied. In other words, they were the injured party, not me. I talked to myself the whole day. But the people who wanted to have that exchange had a right to have that exchange. But I felt when I walked out on that stage at the University of Wyoming, I probably would have had 50 students if they hadn't canceled the thing. I ended up with 2,000 students. And when I walked out on the stage, I could kind of feel from the audience a sense of disappointment. Where's the monster that we were supposed to encounter? I'm not a monster. I'm a guy with, you know, a history with some ideas, with some mistakes, and lots of mistakes in my past, and also, you know, some things that I've accomplished. So in that regard, they want to talk to me, they should be allowed to talk to me. Anybody else?
One more, actually, unless somebody else wants to. Now, you were asked several questions that were obviously intended to kind of put you on the spot. Did you expect to be asked that many questions?
I'm not sure which questions it mean. I never felt on the spot. I always felt like it was a fair, open conversation, and people want to know these things, and partly they've read about me, and they, you know, they have opinions based on those readings, and they have every right to ask any question they want. And I said that in the beginning. I said there, I'm not going to censor questions. I'm not asking people to write questions on 3x5 cards, and somebody will sort through them and see which ones are good and which ones aren't good. They're all good. They're all legitimate, and even when people are misinformed, you know, that's okay. I mean, we're misinformed about a lot of things, starting with Egypt.
Would you say that tonight's presentation is typical of the reaction that you get when you speak at campuses?
Gee, I don't know about typical. I mean, I've spoken to much larger audiences. I speak to much tinier audiences. And, you know, I speak on campuses virtually every week. So I was at San Francisco State last week, University of San Francisco. I'll be at the University of Hawaii next week. I do this all the time. So I don't really have any expectations. I do feel like the world is in motion, and I have a lot of, I pay a lot of attention to it, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. And all I really think that is important as a professor, as a teacher, is that folks have the opportunity to exchange ideas, and that's why I come.
As you're talking about current events, you're talking about the things that are going on right now, plenty of people at each event probably come up confronting you about the past.
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever a time when you hope, man, can I just get past that?
Not
or,
really.
Or do you welcome that discussion each and every time?
I welcome the discussion for a lot of reasons. One is that the Vietnam War remains an open wound in American society. John McCain ran for the president 2 years ago and decided the narrative he wanted to spin was a narrative of being a war hero. Now, in my view, he was far from a war hero, and as my brother said, who was a vet from that era, you can't have a war hero from an illegal, unjust, murderous war like that, a war of invasion and occupation. So there are no war heroes. But that's the narrative that John McCain decided to run on. I think we still have a lot to do in terms of resolving that history. And I think if we don't learn the lessons from that history, we go ahead, you know, stumbling into similar situations and bigger mistakes. And I think that's a problem. So no, I don't shy away from it, and I don't find that it's unfair or even unnecessary. I think it is necessary.
I have a question. 3 books that transformed you in your life.
The 3 books that transformed me: Moby Dick, the autobiography of Malcolm X, Ruby Fruit Jungle.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.